Okay, so good night, Miss Mita. My name is Jovan, and I will be explaining about the topic of EU's distribution of responsibilities, which actually got derived from the main topic, that is multi-level governance or MOG. And before, I want to apologize that the topic has drifted from EU's competences to EU's distribution of responsibilities. I consider this new title to be more representing and more proper regarding its substance, and I would like to apologize my late submission because pretty years these days are so tiring for me, and yeah, I pretty much had tiny little energy to do this, and yeah, so I actually chose this topic because I consider this topic to be fun and really informative, where it's packed in an easy to understand manner. So yeah, so let's start. And first off, bit of history. So I would like to explain the history of the main topic first, that is multi-level governance, where it soon will branch into other histories of the following topics. So yeah, so the EU that it is now, how complex, unique, powerful, and essential it is now, went through substantial changes with its governance system and developments of its capabilities. Or back in the day, the EU was actually pretty similar with other IOs, international organizations. It used to be studied only in the lens of regional integration via relevant theories such as liberal intergovernmentalism and neo-functionalism. But ever since they signed the C in 1987 Single European Act, the EU became much more politically distinct, where they must be studied as well in the lens of political system with multi-governance, the system of multi-level governance, where there was a shift that could be seen, such as higher prevalence of majority voting and stronger structural policy to cooperate better with local and national governments in managing structural funds. Okay, so next, what is MLG exactly? What is the system of MLG, the multi-level governance system? It is a system that embraces interdependence between governments from different territorial levels, where those territorial levels are multi-level policy networks, supranational, interstate, and transnational multi-level policy networks. And the system, MLG system, has two dimensions, vertical and horizontal, where the meaning is actually accurate with the definition of being vertical and horizontal, where vertical dimension will mean the linkages between higher and lower levels of government, and horizontal dimension will mean the cooperation arrangements between regions or municipalities. Next, distribution of responsibilities. So the MLG system was actually created and used by the EU to then also help create the effective and appropriate distribution of responsibilities towards EU and its member states. The distribution of responsibilities is an idea that focuses on regional, national, and local policymaking levels. So I could reinstate distribution of responsibilities again as policymaking in those different levels, regional, national, local, where there will be situated and various policymakings. Yes, the distribution of responsibilities of those various governmental levels would branch into the varying distribution of competences. And yeah, the various distribution of competences will as well follow regulations made by the TFEU. TFEU is Treaty on the Functioning of the EU, European Union. It is based on being capable, right? So there are two regulations. The first one is that the EU may only operate its competences or powers based on its limits, where the limitations are decided by its member states, with the sake of reaching the treaty's objectives. And the second is that competences that are not conferred upon the EU in the treaties remain with the member states, where if member states actually fails to deal or act, or if the EU has better collective action in the regional level in dealing with an issue, then yeah, as I've stated. And yeah, so with that, the competencies are actually divided into three different types. There's exclusive competences, shared competences, and supporting competences. Competencies, actually. Yeah, so those three competencies are actually clarified by the Treaty of Lisbon, where exclusive competencies, that is actually written in the I think in the second article of the TFEU. Sorry, it's actually the third article of the TFEU, where where it where exclusive competencies are competences that only the EU alone can legislate and adopt binding acts, and member states are allowed if only given permission by the EU. So yeah, exclusive competences includes such as customs union, com- competition rules of the internal market, monetary policy for European countries, common fisheries policies, and many more. And for the second one, shared competences, it is actually written in the fourth article of the TFEU, where it is competences that both the EU and its member states can legislate and adopt legally binding acts, where the exercising of the competences are highly present for the member states and not for the EU, or or the EU has decided not to. And it includes such as internal market, social policy, agriculture and fisheries, consumer protection, and many more. And the last competences is supporting competences, where it is competences that where to support, coordinate, and complement the member states' actions can only be intervened by the EU, meaning that it's non-urgent in its originality. And yeah, harmonization from member states aren't required for legally binding EU acts. And supporting competences include such as human health development and protection, educational, vocational training, youth and sport, civil protection, administrative cooperation, and many more. So as a conclusion, the EU, after the Single European Act C in 1987, it has become much more distinct in its comparison to other IOs, where multi-level governance system was a big player in EU's distinction. And yeah, so again, the MLG system, the multi-level governance system, is a system that responds towards the ever-growing interdependence between governments from different territorial levels. And yeah, the MLG also responds towards the idea of responsibility distribution of responsibilities, to where the idea procreates branches into various competencies of the EU that is distinct by the regulations for the greater political management. So yeah, so that's all for my presentation of the topic of EU's distribution of responsibilities. And yeah, good night, Miss Mita, and thank you for listening.